अपोज कर रहे हैं, शायद इस सर्वे के बाद उनकी आंख खुलेगी।
यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड जो समान नागरिक कानून अगर आता है तो सभी वर्ग के लोगों को न्याय मिलेगा, सभी वर्ग का उत्थान होगा, प्रगति होगी।
पॉलिसी डिसीजन में DMK is opposed to it.
You support a common law for marriage, adoption, inheritance, divorce. If common marriage age has to be 21, it will be 21 for everyone. If inheritance equal share is the one that is mandated, it will be the one for everybody.
Good evening and a warm welcome. I'm Grihatul Siddiqui and this is Viewpoint. Today, as we take on yet another aspect of the Uniform Civil Code and put it up for discussion, the important thing to keep in mind is uniformity and equality are two different things. And much as gender justice is one essential aspect of bringing in a Uniform Civil Code in the country, it didn't form a part of any of the debates on it in the Constituent Assembly back then when the idea was floated. Secondly, can there ever be uniformity of personal laws in a diverse country like India? And when it comes to personal laws, the fingers are quick to get pointed at the Muslim personal law. And when we speak about that, the framers of the Constitution were also of the view that no government can use its provisions in a way that would force the Muslims to revolt. People back then, in favor of a Uniform Civil Code, also conceded that it would be unwise to enact the Uniform Civil Code, ignoring strong opposition from any one particular community. Now, if we delve further into the equality question, with the right to equality comes the relation of the UCC that it has with fundamental rights. But over the issue of putting the Uniform Civil Code in the Fundamental Rights chapter, the matter was settled by a vote back then. By a 5-4 majority, it was decided that the provision was outside the scope of fundamental rights and therefore the Uniform Civil Code was made less important than freedom of religion. Having said that, law and theology are two different things. Law prescribes human behavior from which it judges the deviance. Moreover, the Constitution, which gives this freedom of religion, also lays down its limitations, which means that one can follow religion to the extent that it doesn't affect public order, health, morality, and other fundamental rights. So decluttering is really needed to be done there when the debate gets down to religion versus a Uniform Civil Code. Also, back to looking at UCC from a prism of gender justice, can we really do that as step one? But let this be a very informed step one, because the issue is that many appear to believe that a Uniform Civil Code would remove all inequalities in one stroke and create a gender just society. But it is important to understand that formal equality cannot bring about a radical change. What the society really needs is a substantive equality. And we attempt to decode this very aspect by way of the News18 Mega UCC survey. What are the kind of questions that we have put forth to all these bunch of over 8,000 Muslim women that have in fact taken part of the survey? If we take a look at the question number 1, it in fact says, do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? Let's look at the responses. Yes says 67.2%. That's how high the number of Muslim women have come in response to this big question. They want a common law that should support marriage, divorce, inheritance or adoption. If we look at the number, it is as low, no is as low as 25.4%. People who are sitting on the fence are 7.4%. That's how the kind of questions that are being put forth. If you look at question number 2 that we have in fact presented to this group, do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for all men and women? And look at the number that supports it. 78% says yes, 16% are still at a no, and 4.7% are still sitting on the fence. They do not know or they can't say. That's what they have in fact mentioned. Now, if we look at what are the kind of questions that we have put forth to all these bunch of over 8,000 Muslim women that have in fact taken part of the survey. If we take a look at the question number 1, it in fact says, do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? Let's look at the responses. Yes says 67.2%. That's how high the number of Muslim women have come in response to this big question. They want a common law that should support marriage, divorce, inheritance or adoption. If we look at the number, it is as low, no is as low as 25.4%. People who are sitting on the fence are 7.4%. That's how the kind of questions that are being put forth. If you look at question number 2 that we have in fact presented to this group, do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for all men and women? And look at the number that supports it. 78% says yes, 16% are still at a no, and 4.7% are still sitting on the fence. They do not know or they can't say. That's what they have in fact mentioned. Let me now put this up for debate. We have a panel of guests who are joining me this evening on the broadcast. Zakia Suman, who's the author and activist, is joining us on the broadcast. Shaukat Ali, an Islamic scholar, is also with us. Also with us is Yasmin Farooqi of the SDPI. And last but not the least, the lone male member on the panel, Mr. Shahid Ali, who's the president of the United Muslims Front, also joins us this evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Zakia, I begin with you. Let's now speak about the Uniform Civil Code from the prison of gender justice. Do you really think we can go about doing that?
Thanks for having me, Griha. Uniform Civil Code has fundamentally been about gender justice and gender equality. And it was championed by Jawaharlal Nehru, Pandit Ambedkar, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, and stalwarts like that from the freedom movement. But it was opposed at that time because it was seen as an attack on our culture. And that's why it found, expression in the Article 44 of the Directive Principles. But it is a politicized issue. The question remains that reform has happened in the Hindu family laws, the codified Hindu family laws, which have resulted in substantive rights coming to Hindu women. Muslim women have been denied legal protection in all matters pertaining to marriage, divorce, and family. So it's not about, I found your introductory remarks really, really interesting and really very good, because it's not about, religious freedom versus gender justice. No, it's about gender justice, and it's also about constitutional justice, constitutional rights coming to women, and also the Allah-given rights coming to women. Because in the absence of a codified Muslim family law, the Quranic affirmative injunctions such as meher, such as consent, such as guardianship and custody of children, such as share in property, have not translated into reality for the Muslim women. The Muslim women have been discriminated in all these matters. And I'm really, happy about your survey. I really congratulate News 18 for the survey that you carried out. You've done a very, very significant contribution to this discourse by directly talking to more than 8,000 women. And look at the results of the survey. I'm not at all surprised. In fact, most Muslim women that we work with, that we talk to, want reform. They want justice and equality. It is their faith that their religion gives them justice, and it's also their faith that as Constitution of India, they're entitled to justice. Our demands for reform in Muslim personal law, codification of Muslim personal law, have fallen on deaf ears. The clergy has never paid heed to what we ever demanded. The politicians have overlooked our demands. The leaders, all kinds of community leaders felt it was not necessary to listen to what women were saying. So I'm really glad that you have taken the pains to conduct this survey. And these women are saying clearly and openly that we want justice and equality in marriage, divorce, family, succession, adoption. So I think it's a great step forward. And it will feed into this whole discourse, which is going on in the country following the Law Commission seeking suggestions of the Indian public. So I really congratulate you, Griha, yourself and the News 18 team for this.
Thank you so much for that, Zakia. And in fact, as a follow-up to this survey point that you've raised, let me actually bring in Shaukat Ali before I bring in Shahid Ali to actually get a counter opinion to what Zakia has just mentioned. Zeenat, the fact that Zakia mentions the Hindu Code Bill, but back when it was about to be implemented, that also needed a trifurcation of the bill into 3 acts. that also was not an easy exercise. It took about 14 to 16 years to get that implemented. So when it is about reforms, do you think the Muslim community has been targeted time and again? At least that is what is the uncommon view that has been made by several members of the opposition. And sorry to politicize this, but I wanted to understand this aspect. Have the Muslim community brought it upon themselves that there is no reform, no codification of their personal law yet, and that's why time and again they are in fact being segregated, and laws like this are in fact putting them at a minority, that they are the ones who are not complying with what should be a common sort of a view when it is about bringing in a uniform code in the country. Do you think the community itself is to blame because of it?
Yes, I think, you see, in the last 75 years, when there has been ample room and ample time, and, issues have come up now and again, and the latest one was the triple talaq issue, which is non-existent in the Quran. So that was a time when the Muslims could have effected the change, because the Quran does not speak of it.
Yes.
The present law that is being practiced is very well known as Anglo-Mohammedan law. It is based on customary law and other kinds of laws are crept in. Now, this was something that needed correction right at the beginning. But there have been no amendments. In 1937, the Act came. In 1969, the Muslim Dissolution Marriages Act, and then in 1986, which was really quite an which was not an act that really gave women substantial amount of what they should have got. But the point here remains that this kind of argument, you see, which has been controlled by patriarchy and which has been controlled by traditionalists, and which has also been controlled by misogynic elements, and I think male power that has wanted to assert itself from time to time, very unfortunate but true, it has led to this kind of understanding. I have written 2 books on the subject based in 1984 and 1998. So the point is that studying laws across the country, studying laws across the continents, Muslim law has undergone also various kind of changes in different countries. Today you have Turkey, which is a predominantly Muslim country. And let me tell you that it is ruled by the Swiss Code in 1923. And that Swiss Code is applicable, and it has nothing. And no one says that, that it is in consonance with the Islamic law. Because even when it came to the question of polygamy, and Kemal Atatürk was really an extraordinary leader, approached the clergy, and he did not get a response.
Yes.
And then he introduced this code, and in which it was mentioned, where polygamy is concerned, that the conditions for polygamy today are unrealizable. It was put in inverted commas. So the whole point is that even in a country like Turkey, you have, which is a predominantly powerful Muslim country today, a Swiss code that is prevailing. But on the other hand, you have countries like Tunisia, who went back to the Quran and said that is exactly what the Quran is saying, that women have, men and women have an equal right to divorce, conditions in marriage. Marriage does not undermine women's condition, equality and equality all the way. And so they base their laws on, on the textual understandings of the Quran, and these are also extraordinarily brilliant and modern laws. So
while you talk about the textual understanding of the Quran, Zeenat, let me now bring in Mr. Shahid Ali. Mr. Shahid Ali, when it is about the reforms, the Muslim personal law has always been targeted. Even when there was the right time to go ahead and implement certain changes, it hasn't been done in favor of the women, which are half of the Muslim population in the country and worldwide. Why do you think that important aspect is lacking from the Muslim personal law?
In fact, the important aspect is something else. You
What
have
is that?
You have to see that yes, I am letting you know, I am telling. Diversity is a basic feature of Constitution of India. India is a country which is governed by Constitution of India. Now, basic features cannot be amended by anyone. Even with the support of absolute majority, this basic features of Constitution cannot be amended by anyone. Now, Article 25 confers powers upon all peoples of India, whosoever is living in India, by way of fundamental right that everyone will have the right to profess their own religion in the manner they like, in the manner which has been taught by their own religion. Now, with this diversity, India has survived for 70 years, 75 years, and India is growing day by day.
The limitation to that, it should not come in the way of fundamental rights also. That's an important aspect, Mr. Shahid Ali.
Yes,
don't you think right to equality is a fundamental aspect that should not, in fact, be apprehended because of certain things that are there in religion and in religious personal laws?
So you want to say that for 75 years our courts, our constitution allowed inequality?
No, I'm
not.
specifically talking
Equality
about
is
the
there.
Muslim personal law. Mr. Shahid Ali, I'd want your response on that. I'm talking about the reforms that are needed. You are not talking about the question that I've asked you. I'm just I wanted to understand this aspect. Yes.
Your channel has conducted some survey.
Yes.
Now I say with responsibility, and I'm giving one question for you people to conduct survey, that how many instances of inequality are among Muslims in comparison to their brothers, those who profess Hindu religion or other religions? If
you can answer that question to me, because we have got two members in the panel.
Then you will be surprised. You will be surprised that instances among Muslims are equal to 0%.
Okay, can you base this on facts? Can you support this statement of yours on facts, Mr. Shahid Ali?
Equality has been provided by Quran, by Sunnah. There is no inequality, and therefore there is no instance of inequality. So this all is propaganda. This all is nothing else but the propaganda, and the politics is being done by this propaganda.
Okay.
Now
let me ask you this. Mr. Ali.
Please give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
Please give me 10 seconds.
I just want to bring in and make one point. Mr. Shahid Ali, this will not go anywhere.
Files an affidavit before the Supreme Court.
I'm exactly coming to that. Let me ask you this. Since you mentioned that this is a highly politicized issue, I wanted to understand, this is a very question I asked also to Ms. Zeenat Shaukat Ali. Isn't the community itself responsible for what it has brought upon itself? Considering, let's talk about triple talaq. A thing like instant triple talaq is not even legitimized under the holy book Quran. Why was it allowed to be practiced in the country so that the ruling dispensation goes ahead and gets in to criminalize that entire practice that is not even, has any kind of legitimacy as far as the holy Quran is concerned? Why was it allowed? Why did the Muslim personal law not step in as far as that is concerned? Then how can you claim politicization? Because you guys were not responsible for the reform.
If you want to talk about triple talaq is not allowed by Quranic verses.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Triple talaq is not mandated in Quran.
Why was it allowed to
mandated in Quran? That if divorce has been pronounced, please now appreciate one thing.
Yes, please
allow me to answer that.
Please.
You have raised the question of triple talaq. Triple talaq is not provided in Quran. Quran ayat number 228, Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 says, if talaq is pronounced for one time or 100 times or lakhs of times, that will be considered as one talaq. And if the compromise is not accorded in between the husband and wife within 3 months, then that will dissolve the marriage. Now this triple talaq qanoon, which has come into being, therefore we have challenged that as well. Now at least that talaq is one talaq. Triple talaq is punishable, but that will be considered one talaq. And if the compromise is not accorded between the parties, then after 3 months that will dissolve the marriage. So that is against the Quran. So that's why I say with responsibility, please talk about Quran. Please have a debate on Quran. Every verse on Quran, we are ready to talk. We are ready to debate on every verse of Quran. So कुतर की बात हम नहीं करते हैं कि सब फला पर्सन आदमी ये करा, दूसरा आदमी ये करा, तीसरा आदमी ये करा. Come with authentic proofs. Come with evidences. Come with instances. And I challenge through your medium as well.
Yes.
Please talk, please debate on Quranic verses, please debate on Sharia, please debate on Ahadith, and you will find that these are the best law, which should be adopted by all.
That's exactly what we are putting out for debate also. Mr. Shahid Ali, the entire Muslim personal law is not based on the constitution of the country, it's based on Sharia. That also has certain aspects. The point that Zeenat Shaukat Ali and before her Ms. Zakia Suman was making was that it has allowed certain patriarchal elements to actually go ahead and dominate what actually goes as part of the Muslim personal law. Let's talk about inheritance for that matter. If at all a daughter, an only daughter, is part of a family, vis-a-vis her relationship with her father, she gets just half of the property. In the case of the fact that she has brothers, she only gets 1/4 of that property. How is that justified when we talk about gender justice?
One half in comparison to his brother, to her brother.
Which
Why?
makes it 1/4.
She will be married
Yes.
to someone.
Yes.
Now, no, one half. She will be married to someone. Now that boy will definitely get something from his parents. So she will take along one half. And the boy will also have half of the property or one share from there. So this property will become more than the boy. Please try to appreciate this.
Okay.
जिसको शादी करके जो जा रही है लड़की, वो अपने साथ में एक 20 इन कंपेरिजन टू बॉय आधा हिस्सा लेके जा रही है. जिसके पास शादी इसकी होने जा रही है, वहां से उस लड़के को पूरे का पूरा हिस्सा आ रहा है. तो उसका दोनों का मिलाकर कितना होगा? 75. अगर लड़की को आपने आधा दे दिया, उधर से वो लड़का भी आधा लेके आ गया, तो लड़के वालों के पास तो बहुत कम रह गया. तो इक्वलिटी कहां से आई? इक्वलिटी हैज टू बी इक्वलिटी. इक्वलिटी दिस नॉट बी कि साहब लड़कियों को ज्यादा है, लड़कों को कम, या लड़कों को ज्यादा, लड़कों को कम. आप दोनों चीजों को मिला के देखिए ना.
Okay.
Please,
let me bring in Miss Yasmin Farooqi now. She's been very patiently waiting for her turn. Right. I got your point. That's an interesting aspect that you've made, and that's why I wanted that dissection of this targeting of a certain community angle, part of it, and that's why we've got you, Mr. Shahid Ali, on the debate. But let me actually get in Miss Yasmin Farooqi. Miss Farooqi, the fact that there are certain aspects of the Sharia, the Muslim personal law, that have been interpreted in the way that it should be vis-a-vis the holy books, the Quran, and there are certain aspects that are claimed to be skewed or they have been misinterpreted. Like this dissection of the inheritance law that has just been done by Mr. Shahid Ali. It's a fair point that he has in fact made, because it's a marriageable age daughter, she gets some share from her husband and it makes it equal. It can be justified because even if we look at the Hindu code bill and in the inheritance law under the Hindu religion, that also, when it comes to inheritance, it took a lot of time to get in that amendment to get in an equal share to the daughters in the family. So that number of years were dedicated for that reform to actually set in. How do you see this justification that has been made by the former speakers on the panel, that the Muslim personal law is not gender just, and because of which we had to do this survey?
शाहिद साहब ने जो कहा है, देखिए वो बिल्कुल सही कहा है कि उन कुरान में इस तरह का हिस्सा दिया गया है. मैं अपने दूसरे पॉइंट पे आ रही हूँ. अब देखिए, हमारे यहाँ अभी आप सबने ये कहा कि हमारे यहाँ ये चाहते हैं कि बराबरी का दावा हो, बराबर का समझा जाए, महिलाओं के साथ हमदर्दी हो. मैं बिल्कुल इस बात को मानती हूँ, लेकिन सारी महिलाओं के साथ होना चाहिए. उन महिलाओं में जो हमारी आदिवासी हैं उनके साथ भी होना चाहिए, जिनके मर्द 5 शादियां करते हैं. उन महिलाओं के साथ भी होना चाहिए जिन एक महिला के 5 आदमी होते हैं. उन महिलाओं के साथ तो बात, प्रॉब्लम वो नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम यह है कि आप जब बात करते हो तो सिर्फ मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ की बात करते हो, आप सारी चीजों की बात नहीं करते हो. आप आदिवासियों की बात नहीं करते हो, आप सिखों की बात नहीं करते हो. अब आपके एक और सवाल के जवाब पे मैं आती हूँ कि आधा हिस्सा बिल्कुल हिंदू लॉ में जो वो उसको ठीक किया गया है, उसमें लड़की को आधा हिस्सा दिया गया है. लेकिन आज तक 5% को भी अगर आप ये साबित कर दें, आप ऐसे जैसे अभी एनालिसिस किया है, अगर ये 5% भी मुझे साबित कर दें तो मैं मान जाऊंगी. क्योंकि एक चीज और होती है वसीयत, और वो वसीयत मुस्लिम में भी है. आप है ना, हिबा कर दीजिए अपनी बेटी को, किसने मना किया है? वो जो 1/4 लिखा हुआ है ना, शाहिद साहब से ही बात कर रही हूँ, वो ही नहीं देते हैं कोई. ना हिंदू लॉ में आधा दिया जा रहा है, ना मुस्लिम लॉ में 4% जो हिस्सा कुरान ने कहा है वो लड़की को दिया जा रहा है. तो बराबरी तो ना पहले हुई, ना अभी हुई, ना हिंदुओं में हो रही, ना मुसलमानों में हो रही. अब अगर आप ये लॉ लाते हैं बराबरी का, तो जो इनको पहले से इतने पुराने टाइम से लॉ बना हुआ है, उनको ही बेचारियों को अभी तक नहीं मिली, तो ये क्या दे देंगे? अब आप आइए, जो 5-6 पॉइंट्स पे आप बात करते हो, मैं सारे पॉइंट्स पे बात करना चाहूंगी. कि अव्वल तो हम एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की जब बात करते हैं तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में क्लियर है कि राज्य जो है वो आपको प्रपोजल देगी सेंटर को, और फिर उस पे सेंटर गौर करेगा. वो कहीं बात ही नहीं आती है. एक तरीका होता है, एक चीजें ठीक करने के लिए आपको जड़ों से आप 371 लागू है, गोवा में अगर आप शादी 25 साल तक नहीं होती और बेटा नहीं हो तो आप वो बातें भी करो। आप सिर्फ मुस्लिम्स की बातें मत करो, आप ये सब बैठ के बात करो कि साहब हम उसका पे कानून पे भी लाएंगे। जब आप बात करते हो रिफाइंड की तो आप बात करते हो कि आदिवासियों को आप अलग हटा लेंगे।
आपकी बात मैं समझ रही हूँ मिस फारूकी, एंड दैट्स एन इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट, एंड हम लोग यही चाह रहे हैं कि इस डिबेट के जरिए हम इन सारी बातों को सामने रखें। बट बिफोर आई गो फर्दर टू माय स्पीकर्स ऑन द ब्रॉडकास्ट, लेट मी एक्चुअली कट अक्रॉस टू दिस important reaction that we are now getting. Union Minister V. Muralidharan has responded to the CNN News 18 UCC survey. Let's first cut across to that reaction and then we'll go back to the panel.
We have along with us Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan. Sir, while Network 18 conducted a survey on Uniform Civil Code among Muslim women, about 65% of them said that they want some kind of a common code when it comes to civil laws.
No, I think this should make the eyes of the political parties who are opposing the rights of women, let their eyes be opened, let them look at the situation and let them get this feedback from the women folk of all the communities. So you are saying that the Muslim women especially, they want that they should be treated equal with men regarding marriage rights or regarding property rights. So that should be an eye opener for those who are opposing this. So I would request them that whatever campaign they are undertaking, let them undertake this campaign with the involvement of the women also.
Some of the other points said that 82% wanted equal rights and property. When they divorce, they want to remarry without any issues. Marriage age should be to 21. These were some of the factors.
No, that is why all these issues are points of debate and discussion. Let that debate and discussion happen, and the country will come to a decision which is conclusive and which is good for everyone in the society.
All right, going back to my panel on this, Sakia Suman, the earlier point that Ms. Yasmin Farooqi was making was about how this particular aspect of the questionnaire that we have put to over 8,000 Muslim women should have an expanded reach. It should go to even members of the tribal community, members of the Sikh community or Christian community. What do you have to say about those stakeholders that are equally important when it is coming down to implementation of the Uniform Civil Code, considering the right to equality is in principle and practicality really missing in all of these spheres also?
Definitely, because Uniform Civil Code is meant for the entire country, irrespective of faith, irrespective of ethnicity, and for all genders. So I'm sure that we need to hear the voices of all women across all backgrounds. That is very, very important. Not just that, we also need to hear the voices, from within the gender diversity community, because, we cannot look at, in 21st century, we cannot look at gender in the male-female binary. There are other genders also. The entire debate which is going on same-sex marriage, the petition is lying in front of the Supreme Court. Even that needs to be looked at. Several other aspects pertaining to marriage and family, such as the age of consent. The age of consent needs to be revisited by the Law Commission and by the Law Ministry, because in POCSO, the age of consent has been raised to 18 years, and very often teenage boys and girls who are in love and who are sexually active end up, the boys end up getting criminalized for the sexual activity. So that needs to be revisited. We also need to look at the question of entry of women into places of religious worship. It can be a temple, it can be a church, it can be a dargah, it can be a gurdwara. There should be equal rights for entry for all believers, irrespective of gender background. Of course, despite laws, we remain a patriarchal society. Yes. The mindsets, the attitudes of people need to change. They need to recognize that there cannot be a discrimination with girls and with women on account of gender. So that is one whole area where a lot of work needs to be done. But substantive equality can come to women across all faith backgrounds if we take away injustice and discrimination which is carried out in the name of customs, laws, personal laws and in the name of diversity. Diversity is a very, very noble principle. But in the name of diversity, I cannot rob the rights of another person. There are Supreme Court judgments which say that you are free to practice your religion so long as it doesn't violate the rights of the female citizens. So all this needs to be kept in mind. And this is a question of constitutional morality. It's a question of also, pertaining to Muslims. It's also a question of Islamic morality, because Islam is supposed to be a religion of gender justice and gender equality. But in principle, the Allah-given rights to the women have not been translated into reality because of the dominance of conservative patriarchal clergymen and bodies such as the Personal Law Board who fear women's equality, who fear women's independence.
Mr. Shahid Ali, would you like to respond to that? This entire point that Ms. Zakir Suman is making, and also on that aspect, if we look at the marriageable age for Muslim girls, the fact that it's allowed right after puberty is also a big question that has been often put forth when it is about no equality as far as the Muslim women are concerned as far as the personal law is concerned.
I think suffice would be to say that the Punjab and Haryana High Court and Delhi High Court has held so that the age of the marriage for the Muslim girl cannot be made mandatory as of 18 years. Now, something has been decided by Honorable Court. A judicial dictum has come. Now, that has to be respected. If the Honorable Court's orders are not respected, then who else will be respected in this country? Undoubtedly, that matter is now subject to the Honorable Supreme Court. Honorable Supreme Court till date has not decided so.
Yes.
So,
and that is the important aspect. Then why are you mentioning a minority judgment that's coming out of one of the high courts? Unless and until the apex court makes it mandatory, we have to stick to the fact that the Indian law determines the marriageable age as 18 for women. Then why can't that reform be brought into the Muslim personal law as well?
Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed the orders passed by Honorable Delhi High Court and Honorable Punjab Haryana High Court. Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed. So that is a good law as on date.
No, I'm again asking about the reform bit. Are you still going about justifying this? Don't you think over the years, ever since the Holy Book was written, don't you think that reform is much needed as far as the society is concerned?
Whether, Madam, please try to appreciate one thing. Who is supreme in this country? Now, who will decide the laws? Who will interpret the laws? Who will make decisions? Undoubtedly, Honorable Courts. Honorable Court decision is there. Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed even that. Now, that is a good law as on date. Now, something is good law. The Honorable High Court and not only one High Court, two High Courts have held that the marriageable age is different than the age of majority as far as the Muslim girls are concerned. The thing which you have said, the puberty. Now that goes to there. Now recently the Kerala High Court has observed. आपने भी सुना होगा कि साहब आप के जो दादा के ज़माने में कितने साल की उम्र में शादियां हो जाया करती थी. I am not on to that कि साहब that should be fixed. Now something should be left for Honorable Court to decide. Honorable Court has already decided that. So are we supreme than the Honorable Courts? Are the anchors supreme than the Honorable Courts? Is the media supreme than the Honorable Courts? Absolutely not. This power is conferred with Honorable Supreme Court, Honorable High Court only to interpret law. Law has been interpreted.
Mr. Ali, unfortunately, on the question of reform, you're just hiding behind this one logic which you are going on repeating. You have not yet actually conceded to this one idea that a reform is needed when it is about the Muslim personal law or any kind of personal law, and that's why the Hindu Code Bill was brought in. Don't you think that aspect really needs to be debated further and looked at as far as the Muslim community is concerned? Because this is the point that Zakir Suman and Zina Shaukat Ali were also making, that it's been dominated by people who have these majoritarian views that women should in fact be put under their shoes, and they should actually not be considered equal as far as the men in the religion are concerned, and that becomes a huge problem. Zakir, you wanted to respond to the point that Mr. Shahid Ali was making.
Yeah, so Sir has just illustrated, the problem that we have been talking about. And these high courts gave this judgment in the absence of a law.
Yes.
That's why the need for a codified law. Let us not forget that the Supreme Court has just now, in the month of March, highlighted the need for a common law. We are going, we are going in this discussion because of the Law Commission soliciting views. But just before that, the Supreme Court has said that these anomalies in personal laws are coming in the way of dispensing justice to women and girls.
Zina Chokatali, quick point. Do you agree to the point
law
that Shahid Ali also made when it is about the judgment that came out of the Delhi High Court and the Punjab High Court as far as not deciding on a minimum marriageable age for girls, for women?
Yes,
No,
yes.
I can
Zina,
agree with
Zina.
In the absence of a law, that's
Zakia, one second. Questions for Zeenat, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, you see, I cannot agree with him. Even on religious grounds, I cannot agree with him. Because, if you look at worldwide in the countries of the world that have practiced Sharia laws and that have introduced change in the age of marriage of girls, have used a particular verse of the Quran, in which it is said that when it is in Surah number 4, Surah number Nisa, that when your girls come to the in the age of sense, when they have got the age of sense, then you hand over their property to them. Intelligence, you see, when they have learned to understand, so you hand over your property to them, and not before that. So what happens is that it was debated that when when a property is not given away to a girl at that age, how can you ask her to take her whole life and say that she can be married at 13, 14, 12 or whatever age that she starts menstruating? I think that entire argument has gone in the wrong direction. What the Quran was saying and what the even the traditional understandings have come into play, they have said is that when the girl gets a mentally understood, what you're talking about is only a physical development of a girl to be able to produce. That doesn't mean that she is ready in her mind and that her body has become strong enough to bear children and that she understands the responsibilities of becoming a mother and becoming a wife. And so I think it is extremely important that the girl child educates herself.
Absolutely.
She's given the time and she's given the opportunity, which is a compulsion in Islam. There are 805 verses in the Quran which deal with ilm or knowledge and its acquisition and its derivatives. Now here it is the most often used word in the Quran as next to the word Allah.
Zeenat, thank you so much for that views, and that's an important point that Zeenat Chokatali is making. Unfortunately, that's all the time that I have on the broadcast. The important aspect of the Quran is ilm, knowledge. The seeking of knowledge is important before actually going ahead and getting married. It all boils down to in fact, misrepresentation of the text, and that's why we continue to debate the anomalies in the Muslim personal law and other personal laws. It is all because of the patriarchal mindset and the misrepresentation of the holy books. I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining me this evening on this all-important debate. Meanwhile, we're cutting across some breaking news that we're getting on the broadcast. Now, when it comes to the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, the centre has now filed a fresh reply before the Supreme Court of the country, and in the additional affidavit the centre has mentioned that the historic step of abrogation has brought unprecedented development, stability and security to the region. My colleague Ananya has got us that important update, has more details. Yes, Ananya.
Well, yes, sir. The centre's big pitch in opposing the uniform civil, the abrogation of Article 370 is that, the centre says that street violence is a thing of the past. It also goes on to say that stone pelting incidents, which are as high as 1,767 in the year 2018, have, after the abrogation of Article 370 in 2023, stand at zero. So basically, the centre going on to say that there are no stone pelting incidents that are happening at this point of time. It also goes on to say that, how the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, which have been now made a union territory, and all laws being applicable there, have witnessed unprecedented era of peace, stability, development, is what the centre is going on to say. And I quoted from one of the paragraphs of this affidavit is that schools, colleges, universities, hospitals and other public institutions are functioning efficiently without any for any kind of disturbances during the last 3 years. The earlier practice of daily hartals, strikes, stone peltings and bunds are a thing of the past now. In fact, it also goes on to say Since 2019, the entire region has witnessed an unprecedented era of peace, progress, and prosperity. It has submitted. The life has returned to normalcy in the region.
Okay. All right, Ananya, thank you so much for that. We've got that information thanks to you. We are quickly shifting our focus to this next piece of breaking news that is very concerning considering the flood situation in states like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Now we have been told that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with the chief ministers of both these states about the flood situation, and he's also assured all possible help and support from the centre. My colleague Payal Mehta is joining us for more on this. Yes, Payal.
The Prime Minister, who had earlier in the day also spoken to senior ministers in the government and senior officials in the government regarding the flood situation across the country, has now spoken to Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu, who is the Chief Minister of Himachal, and of course the Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, understanding from them what the situation was, what sort of help was now needed, and what the centre could do, and also assuring them at this difficult hour that the centre stands shoulder to shoulder with them and will assure all possible help to the states as far as this difficult situation is concerned. Pushkar Singh Dhami has also tweeted and confirmed that yes, he did get a call from the Prime Minister. Prime Minister inquired from him about what the situation on ground was, has assured all support, and also he had also been able to appraise the Prime Minister about the situation in the state in terms of the NDRF and the SDRF operations that were going on and what is being done to protect those who are impacted by the flood. Even as Himachal continues to be the worst affected state as far as floods are concerned, with houses after houses and roads after roads being washed away because of the rain fury, of course, coupled with the overflowing of the rivers that one has witnessed. And sadly, many people have been rendered homeless because of the situation. However, NDRF has been pressed into service. SDRF has also been pressed into service as far as the rescue operations are concerned in both these states in particular.
All right, Payal, thank you so much for all of that information. And with that, we are slipping into a very short break here on the broadcast. In fact, plan changed. We are not going into a break. We are now moving to this next debate on the broadcast and Viewpoint this evening. And this has our focus on the state of West Bengal. Now, the death toll in the violence related to Panchayat elections in West Bengal has risen to 20 by today, even as fresh polling was underway, nearly 700 polling booths across 19 districts of the state. Now remember, the West Bengal Panchayat election that was held on Saturday was marred by widespread violence resulting in the deaths of political workers, looting of ballot boxes and also destruction of the ballot papers. So needless to say, the state witnessed yet another bloody exercise of franchise in its rural polls. And with the state's dubious distinction of embarking on this political violence in the past as well, this isn't surprising at all. Although, what does seem to be a break from tradition is that this time around, the ruling dispensation in the state seems to mainly have been at the receiving end of the violence. That, coupled with the relatively low voter turnout of just 66.28%, which is almost 5 to 7% less than what was the voter turnout in Bengal as far as the elections are concerned, that in fact could also carry ominous signals for the Trinamool top brass. Meanwhile, sources are also suggesting that the violence could turn out to be a weapon for the Bharatiya Janata Party in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections. And the party could use the same weapon to attack the opposition unity. And they've already started doing so, with the BJP state machinery and the union ministers already taking a dig at the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi amid the party's efforts to tie up with the Trinamool Congress for the Lok Sabha elections. So while the TMC would go ahead and still call this a script that is being prepared to show Bengal in a negative light, the crucial question still remains the same old. When will the violence stop in West Bengal?
এবং শুধু তাই নয়, আজকে সকালবেলা এসে বোম মেরেছে, গুলি চালিয়েছে। গুলির খোল যে অবশিষ্টাংশ পড়ে থাকে গুলি চালানোর পর, সেটা সাধারণ গ্রামবাসীরা পুলিশের কাছে তুলে দিয়েছে। পুলিশ অস্বীকার করার জায়গাতে নেই যে গুলি চলেনি।
Such violence I condemn because there should be a fair elections. Otherwise, there will be no democracy.
They have very cleverly chalked out a blueprint to create violence in the state of West Bengal, to make sure there is bloodshed, there is loss of life, so that they can portray Bengal in bad light.
Let me introduce the august panel on the broadcast this evening. Tausif Rahman of the TMC is with us. Also with us is Mr. Tuhin Sinha of the BJP and Mr. Preetam Karmakar of the Congress Party is also with us. Welcome, gentlemen. Right now we have Tuhin and Preetam who have joined us on the broadcast. We are still waiting for a member of the Trinamool Congress to be with us on the broadcast. Tuhin, I'll begin with you since BJP is in fact part of this political rumble in West Bengal more than the Congress Party, and the accusation that's been levelled against the BJP by the Trinamool Congress, the ruling dispensation in the state, is that you guys are responsible for the poll violence.
Well, good evening, Reha. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Well, TMC is synonymous with violence. If you look at the data, 19 districts, 696 booths had to go for repolling. Now, I don't think even in the worst phase of Lalu-led Bihar in the 1990s, the situation was that bad. But it's that bad today in Bengal because, one, there has been a legacy of violence from the level. Now, if you look at it, again, the two worst affected districts are Murshidabad and Malda, which have been the hub of rioting in the TMC regime in the past, which have been the hub of illegal migration, presided over and supported by the TMC. And again, 20 people losing their lives on a single day in Taliban-style violence. Why do we forget that even 2 years back, when TMC won the elections, they had celebrated by killing nearly, more than 100 people, and for which they had been indicted by the High Court. So this culture of violence is intrinsic to the TMC, but this time, the scale of violence that they have, that Bengal has witnessed, they have rendered themselves as a party that is unfit to exist in modern democracy.
All right. Preetam, do you agree with the statement that's been made by the spokesperson of the BJP? I'd like to understand, there was a petition that you, as a Congress party, had also filed before the High Court as to claim and in fact, we've lost that link with Preetam. I beg your pardon. We'll try and re-establish that connection. But we do have Tausif Rahman of the Trinamool Congress with us on the broadcast. Mr. Rahman, Tuhin of the BJP was making an earlier point that it is because of fear of election loss and also templated violence that has been set in West Bengal is because the Trinamool Congress has a lot to answer in the state. Your response?
See, anyone can come on national television and comment anything, but it is very sad what the people of Bengal is facing right now, and the people of Bengal are seeing each and everything from last 2 weeks what is happening in Bengal. The barbarity and humanity are the prime qualities possessed by the BJP. The same event happened today in Purba Mednipur Tamluk block, where All India Trinamool Congress town president Chanchal Khara was mercilessly thrashed by the BJP goons. Even Khara's vehicle was set on fire. This is why the opposition was asking the deployment of central force? What they want to do? They just want to have this Talibani mindset, which is very sad. They always demanded something or the other, and we asked them to fine, that's how going to happen.
Tausif and Tuhin, both of you have a certain template when it is about the response as far as this violence in the state is concerned. Now, the accusation that we hear from experts is that the Trinamool Congress is very upset because right now what is happening as far as this panchayat polls is that their leaders, their workers are at the receiving end of the violence, while on the other hand, in the past, we'd seen it otherwise. And Tuhin, the allegation against the BJP is that this is a template that you'd like to set ahead of the 2024 election. I'd let Tausif go first, and then I'll come back to Tuhin.
You see, there were first asking for central deployment. They were crying as well. More than 50,000 nominations happened peacefully before election. Now, when the election polling date was coming nearby, they started crying कि भाई हमारे साथ तो ये होने वाला है, हमारे साथ बहुत ज्यादती होने वाली है. Because you see, they have 18 MPs in West Bengal. 18 MPs. That's a mandate from the people. That's the blessing and ashirwad they got from the people of West Bengal. But yes, they don't have a work chart. They खाएंगे क्या? What vote are you going to ask from them? So because they have done nothing in last 5 years, now it is the time to start the bloodbath.
Okay.
While the opposition parties are claiming that Trinamool Congress is unleashing violence on them, the reality is completely opposite. In past 48 hours, 10 All India Trinamool leaders have been killed and several have been grievously injured. He was attacked by the Congress workers on the polling day for Raghunaganj, Murshidabad as well. Who's going to answer that? Who's going to answer that? Just
Right.
because
Tuhin,
we
your
are in the
response.
power,
Yeah.
so you will start
Got your
to
point,
call
Tausif.
all your unwanted friends in the Bengal and torture 12 crore people of
Okay,
Bengal.
got your point. But Tuhin,
I mean, it is very
this
strange what is
statement
happening
that's
in
coming in
Bengal.
from the TMC, they are also on the similar logic. This is the Talibani mindset of the BJP in the state of West Bengal, and that's why we see them unleash the violence. How does one read the statements that are coming? It's almost similar responses. It's your word against the TMC's word.
There is not a single state in India where BJP is not active today. We contest elections even in Nagaland, Arunachal. We have a government in Manipur. Now, there is not a single state where our cadres have indulged in violence. So where do, on the other hand, when in Bengal, violence is commonplace. It is the legacy of the left parties and then the TMC. So where do they make these allegations? We are in much stronger position across the country in some of the other states where, if these allegations were to be true, we could have easily usurped those seats. Now, I will tell you the simple modus operandi of the TMC. They wanted to win most of the seats unopposed in 2018 in the preceding panchayat elections. Because of this environment of fear which they had managed to create, they managed to win 34% of the seats unopposed. This time it is as low as 12%. That is what is rattling the TMC. They wanted to increase the number because at least, at the lower levels, they wanted a complete free run. In the panchayat polls, they didn't want any competition. Now that there is grassroots support for the BJP, it rattles them. And if there has been some violence against the TMC, please understand that when you sow a culture of violence, at some point or the other, you will be at the receiving end because people are upset with you.
Of course.
Okay.
It's all right. Can I come in, please?
Tausif, I will let you come in. I'll let you respond to what Tuhin has just said. But let me bring in Preetam Karmakar, who's just waiting for his turn to respond. I wanted to understand the earlier question that I was asking you, Preetam, that the Congress had put forth a petition before the court that these elections be rendered null and void. Now that there has been repolling in almost 700 of the polling stations in various districts of West Bengal, is the Congress content? And do you think now the results that come about will be something that will be agreeable to the Congress party?
First of all, I would like to start with that on the very first polling day, it's a polling day. On the very first polling day, I was also in a channel and I started and I projected a point which I would like to stick even today is that which way we are moving. We call ourselves human beings and we consider ourselves so-called the most improved and the most smarter species. And what we are doing over here, human blood is being scattered, human lives are being brutally brutally murdered.
Yeah, that's an ideal statement that you're making, Preetam, but there is accusation against the Congress also to rage violence against members of the TMC. So I don't know how can the Congress have an upper ground and that kind of an utopian say. I want you to understand and answer the simple question. Don't you think Congress is equally partaking in the violence which is emanating out of the state of West Bengal? We can't just go ahead and blame, let's say, the TMC and the BJP only for it because you're equal partners.
I must say, it was my only point that we are strongly in against of any sort of human casualties. Okay. Number one. Number two, who are in the powers now, in the state as well as in the center? Both ruling parties are on the power now and nothing is in our hand. We are comparatively weaker over there and we must weaker in terms of forces. And so how the question comes for us to be the responsible one among them? I must tell you, I must clarify, it's a clear binary version which is being played. The one which is on the central is throwing mud towards the one in the state, and of the state they are repeating the same, and they are simply diverting. They are simply diverting the visions and the actual position of force, the price rise, and whatever is going, they are busy in diverting.
How do you respond?
You tell me one thing.
How do you respond to this allegation and also what Tuhin has said? Yeah, Tausif.
Ma'am, I would appreciate that if you give me 30.
Yeah, please go ahead. Tausif, are you able to hear us?
For the people of Bengal and for the people of India, because they need to know the fact. BJP is very happy for all those 34 people who have lost their life. They're very happy. They're very excited. Now hame vote milega. 34 people have lost their life. You are talking about uncontested seat in Bengal. Tripura, 12%. Uttar Pradesh 40% uncontested seat. Madhya Pradesh 835% contested seat. Go and check your facts. Now coming back to double face, what they are doing in Bengal. Moreover, not a single incident of violence has been reported from districts like Hooghly, Paschim Bardhaman, Bakura, Purulia, Jharkhand,
What about
Jalpaiguri,
Murshidabad?
Howrah, Paschim Medinipur,
What about
Dashin
Murshidabad?
Dinajpur,
All the
Birbhum, Uttar Dinajpur.
175
You know,
polling
the
booths,
opposition
repolling has been
have
announced
placed
there.
demands.
Tausif, that's an important question. What about that? You will actually single out all the districts where there's no violence that's been reported from. But what about one single district where there is repolling that's been announced as 175 seats? That is the number.
You need to understand, across Bengal there are 60,000 plus booths, but only a handful number of booths, approximately 60 booths, have witnessed disruption during the polling process.
Right.
Does this not signify
quick
that some
point,
of the news channel and opposition
let me go back to Tuhin. This is the last question that I have the time for. Tuhin, this is the allegation that right now BJP is making about an alliance of the Congress and the TMC. Do you think it's the right time to be making that point? Tuhin, quick point, 10 seconds you have.
No, absolutely. The Congress, the hypocrisy of Rahul Gandhi makes the Congress party complicit in this violence presided over by the TMC. I am asking the Congress spokesperson over here, the Congress representative over here, will Rahul Gandhi demand the ouster of Mamata Banerjee from the opposition meet till she apologizes for this violence?
Why are you supporting the independent candidates with Congress, ISF and CPM? Do you know? I would tell you, there are more than 100
Okay, we'll have to actually wait for the next opposition meet that happens to see what is the camaraderie between the TMC and the Congress. We'll have to unfortunately leave it at that. That's all the time that I had on Viewpoint. Thank you so much for watching.
सुबह 4 बजे जो 29 लोग एक बिल्डिंग में फंस गए थे और बाढ़ में चारों तरफ से पानी आ चुका था, उनको सुबह से 7 बजे निकाला है। कसोल में, मनाली के पास एक कसोल जगह है, वहाँ 24 लोग फंसे थे, उनको बाहर निकाला है। तो अब जो लोग फंसे हुए उन सबको निकाल लिया गया है। और जो तबाही हुई है, लैंडस्लाइड्स हुई है, पुल बह गए हैं, सड़कें बंद है, अभी भी तेज बारिश चली हुई है। ऐसी तबाही पहले कभी भी देखने को नहीं मिली। तकरीबन काफी नुकसान, बहुत कुछ नुकसान हुआ है। और जहां से भी मैं डिप्टी कमिश्नरों से बात कर रहा हूं, पुलिस विभाग के अधिकारियों से बात कर रहा हूं, हर सड़क बंद हो रही है, हर जगह लैंडस्लाइड हो रहा है। बड़ी मुश्किल से लोगों का आना जाना, हमने कहा है कि बंद करने की हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और जो जब तक मौसम खुलता नहीं तब तक हमारा ये प्रार्थना है कि सब लोग घरों में ही रहें। स्कूल कॉलेजेस हमने 2 दिन के लिए बंद कर दिए।
जी सर, कितने दिन लग सकते हैं सिचुएशन को नॉर्मल करने में?
जब तक ये बारिश नहीं रुकती, ना हेलीकॉप्टर की सुविधा है रोड में, क्योंकि मैं खुद पूरे स्थिति पर नजर रखे हुए हूँ। और मुझे भी डिप्टी कमिश्नर ने कहा कि अभी आने की जरूरत नहीं, क्योंकि आधी सड़क पानी के बीच में डूबी हुई है, मनाली और कुल्लू और इस रोड में। कुल्लू डिस्ट्रिक्ट हमारा पिछले रात से पूरी बिजली कट है। 130 मेगावाट का लाडली प्रोजेक्ट तो वो पानी में डूब चुका है। और अभी सतलुज नदी के किनारे भी हमने अलर्ट जारी कर दिया है।
बारिश के कारण बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हुआ, जिसका मैं कह सकता हूं कि आज से पहले हमने कभी इतना नुकसान होते नहीं देखा। कि हमको थुनाग का पूरा बाजार का आधा हिस्से से ज़्यादा हमको खाली करना पड़ा। कि सरकार को समय रहते थोड़ा जो प्रेपरेशन जो करने की ज़रूरत थी, जो एक नॉर्मल कोर्स होता है, ये सारी चीज़ों को लेकर के मैं समझता हूं कि अब की बार थोड़ा कैजुअली लिया गया। धन्यवाद करता हूं एनडीआरएफ की टीम का, और धन्यवाद करता हूं मैं केंद्रीय गृह मंत्री भाई अमित शाह जी का टीम, जिसने बेहतर ढंग से लोगों की जिंदगी को बचाने के लिए काम किया है।
अनप्रेसिडेंटेड रेनफॉल के कारण जो क्षति हुई है आपके सामने है, और एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट ने माननीय मुख्यमंत्री को सारी बातें में उनको संज्ञान में लाकर हमने पिछले कल निर्णय लिया था, क्योंकि 10 और 11 को आपका रेड अलर्ट है। इन सभी बातों को देखकर हमने निर्णय लिया, जो हमारे स्कूल्स और कॉलेजेस है ये बंद रहेंगे, और आने वाले समय के लिए भी हम स्थिति को रिव्यू करेंगे, ताकि आगामी जो भी हम निर्णय ले स्टूडेंट्स की सेफ्टी को देखते हुए ले। शिमला जिला भी काफी हद तक प्रभावित है, हालांकि सड़कें भी जहाँ तक एनएच की बात करूंगा, चाहे वो रामपुर की बात है, हाटकोटी रोडू की बात है, चली तो है लेकिन बीच बीच में बंद होने की भी कई इस तरह की बातें सामने आ रही है।
Nikhil, my colleague, joining us live from the national capital from the Pragati Maidan tunnel, which was forced to shut down yesterday because of the waterlogging that took place over the incessant rainfall that we saw here in the national capital. Nikhil, what's the situation like at the moment? It hasn't rained for the last couple of hours or so. Has that ensured that the tunnel is now open for traffic?
So Poonam, it has started raining yet again in the national capital Delhi, and the water continues to be inside the particular tunnel, which now we are going to show you on the screen of CNN News 18. You can see that this is the prominent tunnel which connects to the central part of the national capital Delhi, and it is now closed for 3 days. Today is the 3rd day, and we have been given to understand that the barricading has also been put up by the Delhi Traffic Police, and no movement is allowed for any of the commuters. This is the main reason as to why the commuters today were facing many of the trouble, because today is the day 1 of the working week, and this is the reason why we can see that many of the problems have also caused by the heavy rainfall which has been received in the national capital Delhi. So you can see that this is the tunnel which could now be seen that it is completely filled with water, and in fact we can not see any of the effort which is being put up by the concerned authority to remove the water.
Now, rains have battered not just the national capital but several other cities in northern India. The state of Himachal Pradesh has been the worst affected. Let's take a look at some of these reports that are coming in.
हिमाचल में जो मौसम विभाग का अलर्ट है और येलो अलर्ट के बीच में लगातार आप देख सकते हैं नदी नाले उफान पर हैं और मौसम।
Do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? An overwhelming 67.2% have said yes.
2 out of 3 women who were surveyed are in favor of a common law when it comes to personal matters like inheritance, property rights, succession, marriage, etc. The younger you are, the more educated you are, the support goes up.
Political parties who are opposing the rights of women, let their eyes be opened, let them look at the situation.
जो राजनेता बिना जाने इसको अपोज कर रहे हैं, शायद इस सर्वे के बाद उनकी आंख खुलेगी।
यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड जो समान नागरिक कानून अगर आता है तो सभी वर्ग के लोगों को न्याय मिलेगा, सभी वर्ग का उत्थान होगा, प्रगति होगी।
The policy decision DMK is opposed to.
Do you support a common law for marriage, adoption, inheritance, divorce? If common marriage age has to be 21, it will be 21 for everyone. If inheritance equal share is the one that is mandated, it will be the one for everybody. Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to what is India's biggest survey on the Uniform Civil Code. Amid the ongoing debate over the Uniform Civil Code and whether or not all these aspects of civil contract should come under the ambit of one common law, CNN News 18 had done a groundbreaking survey conducted by a team of more than 880 surveyors. We bring you the voice of Muslim women across 25 states and union territories pan-India. The objective was to understand the thoughts and opinions of Muslim women on the implementation of a uniform civil code. The surveyors engaged with Muslim women from different walks of life, capturing their perspectives on this significant issue. The survey provided a platform for Muslim women to express their views freely without prejudice. This mega survey by CNN News 18 serves as a powerful testimony to the thoughts and aspirations of Muslim women. Here is an overview of the entire methodology that we have got for you. But before that, let me also bring in our managing editor, Zaka Jacob, who is by default on that very prized magic wall. But today, these numbers will bring a lot of cheer for women across the country because their voice now resonates, Zaka.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we've put out two of those questions. One is, do you support a common civil law for all citizens? And again, amongst Muslim women, a large majority are supportive of it. And of course, raising the marriage age to both men and women to 21. Again, a large majority are in favor of it. But just a quick word on why we have done this survey and why Muslim women. I think the important thing is that the Muslim community, and as has been expressed by organizations like the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, is vehemently opposed to the idea of a common civil law or a uniform civil code. So we decided to ask people who are perhaps worst off, most discriminated against by virtue of this common law or the lack of a common law as to what they think. And I think the findings of this survey are illustrative because there is clearly a difference in the way a large majority of the people in the community think and what their so-called representatives or self-appointed representatives claim that the community thinks. And I think we need to bring that contrast out, and it'll be evident through the course of the survey results.
And the numbers are an eye-opener. 51% of our population is women. 49 to 50% of the population of Indian Muslims in our country is also women. Quick overview of the methodology that we've used on India's biggest survey on the UCC. 8,035 respondents took part in this survey. 884 News18 Network reporters who conducted this on-ground survey, and that means that each of our surveyors has not gone beyond an average of 9 respondents. So that's the spread, ladies and gentlemen. 25 states and union territories covered in this exclusive survey. 20 languages in which the survey was conducted. So the questions were translated into 20 languages so the women there in these regions could understand the question and answer. Women across regions, communities, educational, marital status have been surveyed. Muslim women. On-ground survey conducted between the 4th and the 8th of July. That's the dates. Professional licensed software was used to collect the responses, and of course we have tabulated it in-house. So kudos to the team at the back end who've put in hours of work over many days to get you these numbers, crunch them and get you the most important insight. Now, these are the two questions that we have brought to you through the course of the day here on this special broadcast. Do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? And that's it. The second question that we've asked, so let's look at the response for the first question. The first question, the response, an overwhelming 67.2% say yes, 7.4% sitting on the fence. Do you support a common law on marriage, divorce, adoption, inheritance? Then let's quickly get to you the second question that we've showcased through the day. There are 7 questions in this questionnaire, important ones. Question number 2 is a simple question on India's biggest survey on UCC. Do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for both men and women? Across the board, 78.7% have said yes, an overwhelming number. And if you break it down by age groups, with Zaka will in just a bit, it just becomes, the numbers only balloon up further. And then it becomes an absolute brute majority of people who say, yes, it's high time we did it. Without wasting time, and let's quickly go across to the other question that start with here on this very special broadcast. Do you think, the question is, do you think Muslim men should have the right to marry up to 4 women? Do you really think Muslim men should have the right to marry up to 4 women? Polygamy, should it be allowed? Let's look at what the numbers suggest. The numbers very clearly say no. 76.5% of the respondents say no. 17.4% of the respondents say yes. 6% odd are sitting on the fence. This is the overall number of the sample, 8,035 women. Let's go. Questions 1, 2 and 3 to Zaka as he breaks it down based on the nature of the respondents. Yes,
yeah,
Zaka.
I think this question about whether Muslim men should be allowed to marry up to 4 wives. They are legally allowed, as per Muslim personal law, to have up to 4 wives. I think this is one of the most repulsive sort of practices, because if you look at modern day marriages across, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, etc., the concept has now wired down to one husband, one wife, or one person, one spouse. Basically, the foundational the foundation of modern day marriage is built on fidelity. So having 4 wives is something that is a repulsive practice. But there again, if you were to break down amongst graduates, you said 76.5% have opposed the idea of polygamy or having multiple spouses, multiple wives. In this case, if amongst graduates, it goes up by another additional 2 percentage points from 76.5 to 78.5. But amongst graduate respondents, very, very few are supportive of this practice. Just about 5% saying that they don't know or can't say. Again, if you look at age-wise breakup, in the younger demographic, 18 to 44 demographic, again, that number has gone up by 1.5% from 76.5 to 78. Here again, the percentage of people who are sitting on the fence and not taking a position against polygamy is much lesser compared to the overall respondents. The older people, again, there is almost a 5%, in fact, 5.3% difference between the total respondents and the older people. So older people seem to be favoring the idea of having multiple wives for Muslim men, but amongst younger people and graduates, it is far less. So I think, again, it comes back to, like I said, if for everyone, for Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Sikhs, the whole idea of marriage in this day and age has come down to, one husband, one wife, or having one partner. It is built on the concept of fidelity. Then having multiple wives, I think, is a repulsive.
The more educated,
idea.
the more informed you are, the more nuanced your understanding. Just quickly, Zaka, if you were to go to question 2, does this response mirror the marriage age of 21? Does it the response mirror the question number 3
in fact,
about polygamy?
If you were to look at the idea of raising the marriage age both for men and for women, in fact, the support there is much higher. In the previous segment, you saw 76, it became 78% in the case of graduates. In this case, it is 82%. It's a good 4% more. Similarly, here amongst the younger demographic as well, it's 80%. It's a couple of percentage points more than the revulsion towards polygamy. But when it comes to supporting 21 as the age of marriage, both for men and women, I think, again, the support is much more stronger in the younger demographic as well as in the more educated demographic. And I think it's keeping with marriages across that in this day and age, younger people are wanting to postpone marriage, whether it is for educational reasons, to find a job, to become financially independent. And even, the whole process of childbearing is being pushed further and further ahead. And I think if you look at younger people and graduates, the idea or the affirmative to raising the marriage age to 21 seems to be far more than in the general sample response.
No, absolutely. And the more educated, the younger they are, the more informed they are. And of course, they are also driving the opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us now is Sushil Modi ji, Chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Law. It's also BJP MP. सुशील मोदी जी नमस्ते। न्यूज़ 18 की तरफ से जो यूसीसी को लेकर सर्वे किया गया है, उसमें मुस्लिम महिलाओं ने बढ़ चढ़कर यूसीसी को सपोर्ट किया है। आप क्या कहेंगे हमारी इस पहल पर और इस बात पर कि मुस्लिम महिलाएं आगे आकर कह रही हैं कि देश में एक कॉमन कोड लाइए?
जो महिलाएं हैं, चाहे वो हिंदू समाज की हों या मुस्लिम समाज की, उनके साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता रहा और इसलिए पुरुष हमेशा विरोध करते हैं, महिलाएं कभी विरोध नहीं करती हैं। जब हिंदू कोड बिल भी आ रहा था 56-55 में, तो हिंदू पुरुषों ने विरोध किया था। तो जिस प्रकार लेकिन फिर भी हिंदू कोड बिल आया और हिंदू समाज में डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ख़त्म हो गया, लेकिन 75 साल हो गया आज तक मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ में किसी प्रकार को कोई सुधार नहीं हुआ। ये तो महिलाओं के हित में है, लेकिन इसका विरोध पुरुष करेंगे क्योंकि पुरुषों को लगता है कि उनका एकाधिकार खत्म हो जाएगा। उनको जो डाइवोर्स में अनइक्वल राइट्स मिले हुए थे, जो पॉलीगेमी का अधिकार है, मेंटेनेंस नहीं देने की जो बात कही जाती है, प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स का जो मामला है, तो इसलिए जब दुनिया के अधिकांश मुस्लिम देशों के अंदर एक ही सिविल लॉ जारी है या लागू है, तो भारत में कोई अलग अलग सिविल लॉ होने का कोई औचित्य नहीं था। और आज आपने सर्वे करके सबों की आंखें खोल दी, क्योंकि हम लोग भी थोड़े चिंतित है कि पता नहीं सर्वे में क्या रिपोर्ट आएगी, लेकिन आपकी जो सर्वे रिपोर्ट आज आई है, ये तो ओवरवेलमिंगली जो सभी जो सिविल लॉ के मुद्दे हैं, उन सभी मुद्दों पर बहुसंख्यक महिलाओं ने सुधार की दिशा में और समर्थन किया है। तो ये दिखलाता है कि अब मुस्लिम समाज भी रिफॉर्म के लिए तैयार है। भले चंद मुट्ठी भर जो मेल डोमिनेटेड लोग हैं, जो मेल हैं, वो विरोध कर रहे हों, लेकिन आम मुस्लिम समाज भी सिविल लॉ में चेंजेस के पक्ष में है।
जी सुशील जी, इफ आई मे आस्क यू, AIM-PLB की तरफ से विरोध आया है, RJD बिहार में कह चुकी है कि वी आर अगेंस्ट इट, DMK ने कहा है इट्स आवर पॉलिसी, वी आर गोइंग टू बी अगेंस्ट इट। आपको लगता है कि ये मुस्लिम वोट बैंक को बचाने के चक्कर में ये कर रहे हैं?
मुझे लगता है कि जब कोई ड्राफ्ट आ जाएगा पब्लिक में, तो जो लोग आज विरोध कर रहे हैं उनको भी समर्थन करना पड़ेगा। आप किस ग्राउंड पर विरोध कर रहे हैं? क्या अगर पॉलीगेमी हो कि मोनोगेमी हो, एक पति हो, एक पत्नी हो कि एक से ज़्यादा पत्नी हो, किस आधार पर कोई इसका विरोध करेगा? 3 तलाक का किस आधार पर कोई समर्थन करेगा? तो राजनीतिक दल भी आज कई जो विरोध कर रहे हैं, कुछ तो सारी चीज़ों के आने के बाद भी विरोध करेंगे। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि एक बार लॉ कमीशन के द्वारा जब ड्राफ्ट पब्लिक डोमेन में आएगा, तो जो थोड़ा बहुत भ्रम पैदा करने का प्रयास हो रहा है, तो जनता के दबाव में जो अन्य राजनीतिक दल हैं उनको भी कॉमन सिविल लॉ का समर्थन करना पड़ेगा। तो अभी तो उनके पास कोई ड्राफ्ट नहीं है, इसलिए भड़का देते हैं। लेकिन अगर मुस्लिम महिलाएं खुलकर सामने आ रही हैं और वो अगर कहते हैं कि सिविल लॉ में बदलाव आना चाहिए, तो फिर तो राजनीतिक दलों के विरोध का क्या अर्थ है? जो हमारे विरोधी हैं वो तो हमेशा हमारा विरोध करेंगे, और जो हमारे समर्थन में भी जो लोग हैं उनके बीच में अगर कोई गलतफहमियां हैं, कोई मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग है, अगर मिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फैक्ट्स है, तो उसको हम ठीक करने का प्रयास करेंगे। और मुझे नहीं लगता है कि अंततः जो है पूरा सारे अधिकांश पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज का समर्थन इस मुद्दे पर मिलेगा। कोई भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन को जस्टिफाई नहीं कर सकता है। कोई भी जो महिलाओं के साथ जो लैंगिक अन्याय हो रहा है, जो एक सेक्स का जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है महिलाओं के प्रति, कौन उसका समर्थन करेगा आज के युग में? 75 साल पहले की बात अलग थी, लेकिन अब समाज बहुत आगे बढ़ गया, और जब दुनिया के अधिकांश मुस्लिम देशों में भी एक प्रकार का कानून है और ये प्रथाएं वहां भी नहीं, भले कानून किसी भी प्रकार का हो, तो मुझे लगता है कि भारत में भी जब एक बार ड्राफ्ट आ जाएगा तो बहुत सारी गलतफहमियां दूर हो जाएंगी।
बट आपको लगता है कि सिख कम्युनिटी, पारसीज, क्रिश्चियंस, इन समुदायों में भी आपको सपोर्ट मिलेगा? SGPC हैज अपोज्ड इट, और अब ये कहा जा रहा है हमारे सर्वे के बाद कि आप इन समुदायों से भी पूछिए।
भाई क्रिश्चियन समुदाय तो बहुत प्रोग्रेसिव है, और इंडियन सक्सेशन एक्ट जो आया वो तो क्रिश्चियंस के लिए आया। तो क्रिश्चियन के सिविल लॉ में तो लगभग 90% सुधार हो चुके हैं। तो इसलिए मुझे नहीं लगता कोई क्रिश्चियन कम्युनिटी के द्वारा कोई विरोध होगा। वैसे ही जो सिख समाज है, किस बात का विरोध? SGPC का मैंने बयान देखा, तो मुझे लगता थोड़ी मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग है, लोगों के पास फैक्ट्स नहीं है, इसलिए लोग विरोध कर रहे हैं। और देखिए, तो हिंदू कोड बिल जब आया था, तो हिंदू की परिभाषा में ही सिख, जैन, ये सारे बौद्ध शामिल थे। तो ऑलरेडी तो जो सिख पर्सनल लॉ का लीजिए आप, जो हिंदू पर्सनल लॉ का हिस्सा एक प्रकार का है, उसमें तो 90% सुधार हो चुके हैं। तो इसलिए मुझे नहीं समझ में आया, मैंने बयान भी देखा, तो किस मुद्दे का विरोध कर रहे ये स्पष्ट नहीं हुआ। तो मुझे लगता है कि जो अकाली या जो सिख, जो क्रिश्चियंस, जो पारसी, अगर इनका थोड़ा बहुत कहीं विरोध दिखाई भी पड़ता होगा, तो वह विरोध बहुत जल्द ठीक हो जाएगा, ताकि उनके पर्सनल लॉ में तो 90% सुधार पहले से ही हो चुके हैं। और जैसे क्रिश्चियंस के अंदर है कि जो सेपरेशन के लिए अभी प्रावधान है कि 2 साल उनको अलग रहना पड़ेगा अगर वो चाहते हैं तलाक, जबकि हिंदू में और बाकी में 1 साल का प्रावधान है, और वो चाहते हैं कि 2 साल की वजह से इसको 1 साल का कर दिया जाए। तो ऐसे कुछ मामूली सुधार जरूर हैं, लेकिन क्रिश्चियनिटी में बहुत ज़्यादा सुधार की कोई गुंजाइश मुझे दिखाई नहीं पड़ती, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी क्रिश्चियंस के अंदर, बाकी के अंदर और सिविल लॉ में काफ़ी बड़ी मात्रा में सुधार हो चुके हैं।
Sushil Modi ji, thank you for speaking with us. Quickly going across to former Union Minister of Minority Affairs, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, who's with us. Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi ji, namaste. Thank you very much for speaking with us. What's your perspective on the significant findings of the News 18 UCC poll?
कम्युनल कारीगरों की क्रिमिनल करतूत से कारागार में कैद कॉमन कोर्ट के रिहाई का वक्त आ गया है। और ये इस बात का प्रमाण आपका सर्वे भी बता रहा है कि देश के अधिकांश लोग इस समावेशी सुधार के साथ हैं, सांप्रदायिक वार के खिलाफ हैं।
जी।
और एक बात बहुत साफ है, कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त के सांचे में ढल गए और कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त के सांचे बदल गए। तो आज जो है इस अमृत काल चल रहा है। इस अमृत काल में जो कॉमन सिविल कोड को लेकर के मंथन हो रहा है,
जी,
मुझे पूरा यकीन है, पूरा विश्वास है कि इससे अमृत जरूर निकलेगा। और जो लोग इसको जो है वो धर्म के आधार पर, जो लोग इसको जो है कहते हैं जी इस्लाम पर वार है, धर्म पर, धार्मिक आस्थाओं और मान्यताओं के खिलाफ है, ये मैं इन कम्युनल जो कुतर्कों के कारीगर हैं उनसे मैं एक चीज पूछना चाहता हूं कि कैसे इस्लाम पर वार हुआ। जिस तरह से डेमोक्रेसी के 4 पिलर हैं, विधायिका है, न्यायपालिका है, कार्यपालिका है, मीडिया है, उसी तरह से इस्लाम के 5 पिलर हैं। उसमें जो है वो कलमा है, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह, उसमें जो है नमाज है, रोजा है, हज है, ज़कात है, यानी कि जो दान दिया जाता है, गरीबों को दान देने का जो प्रक्रिया है इस्लाम में वो है। आप ये बताओ, जो इस कुतर्कों के कारीगर हैं, कुतर्कों के कम्युनल कारीगर, उनसे मैं एक ही चीज पूछना चाहता हूं कि इन 5 पिलरों में से कौन सा पिलर जो है वो इस कॉमन सिविल कोड की वजह से हिलने वाला है?
लेकिन नकवी जी ये बताइए, डू यू फील दैट ये जो कम्युनिटी के जो मेजॉरिटी व्यूज हैं, ऑलमोस्ट 70% women are favoring a UCC, ये जो मेजॉरिटी व्यू है इसको कहीं ओवरशैडो किया जा रहा है बाय पीपल लाइक AIMPLB, जो क्लेरिक्स जो बैठे हैं, जो जिनका स्टेटमेंट आया था पिछले हफ्ते, आर दे कंप्लीटली नेगेटिंग द मेजॉरिटी व्यू पर्टिकुलरली ऑफ वुमेन इन द कम्युनिटी?
कांग्रेस पार्टी हो या और भी जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं और जो राजनीतिक दल है जो इस पूरे के पूरे समावेशी सुधार पर कम्युनल वार करने या सांप्रदायिक वार करने में लगे हुए हैं, वो भी ये बात जानते हैं कि उनका अंतर्द्वंद, अंतर्विरोध, उनके अंतर्द्वंद और अंतर्विरोध का उनके ही पार्टी के लोग अपनी अंतरात्मा की आवाज से अंत करेंगे। और इस बात से वो पूरी तरह से मतलब वाकिफ हैं, जानते हैं वो कि वो लोग जो है वो जो भी कर रहे हैं, आज जो है ना देश उनके साथ इसके विरोध में खड़ा हुआ है, इनके विरोध के इस स्वर के साथ खड़ा हुआ है, और ना ही इनकी ही पार्टी के लोग खड़े हुए हैं। और मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं, पार्लियामेंट में आप देख लीजिएगा कि इनके अंतर विरोध का इनकी ही पार्टी के लोग अपनी अंतरात्मा की आवाज से उस पर अंकुश भी लगाएंगे और उसका अंत भी करेंगे।
जी,
क्योंकि नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने देश के आर्थिक सुधार हो, सामाजिक सुधार हो, या तमाम जो कृषि के से संबंधित सुधार हो, शिक्षा के सुधार को देख लें आप अगर, और तमाम ऐसे सुधार से जुड़े हुए मुद्दे हैं जिसको कि मजबूती के साथ उसको जो है वो सफल बनाया है, और आज इस सुधार के रास्ते पे देश आगे बढ़ा है।
ओके,
मोदी जी वो है जो
नकवी साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच। मुख्तार अब्बास नकवी है।